the Local Government Insurance Trust, in my mind, this kind of work is the perfect public-private partnership. And Tim, if you accept a personal note of thanks from me and a business card that you can only call when you have good news, not bad news. Thank you very much. And we'll stay and keep everybody informed.
How about that parking?
Thank you.
I'm kidding.
I'll turn this over to the finance director before I leave you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for putting me first on the agenda.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. All right, up next, we have our preliminary agenda review. Stop me if you have any questions. We'll have our regular session February 22nd at 7 p.m. And we will have an invocation, pledge to the flag, and rules and procedures effective December 15th, 2020. Our meeting schedule for March will be Tuesday, March 1st. We have the State of the City at 7 a.m. Then Tuesday, March 1st, we have a work session at 4 p.m. The 8th and 15th, we have a work session at 4 p.m. And March 22nd will be our regular session at 7 p.m. We have an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals, citizen comments, and you can appear in person or send an email to councilcomments@hagerstownmd.org no later than 5 p.m. on the 22nd. We have a public hearing for the redesignation of the A&E district. We'll approve our minutes from January 11th, 18th, 25th. For the consent agenda, our administration, we have a cable franchise professional service contract for $40,000. Police Department furnished commercial water heater and labor for $13,858.76. Dell Latitude computers and docking stations for $10,393.28. Network boxes for cameras for $37,233. Upfitting of the 2021 Dodge Chargers for $23,079.88. Public Works, we have a street closure request for St. Patty's Day Run Fest. Under utilities, electric, we have fleet repair parts for $18,463.89. Underground primary conductor for $29,700. For water, remote network security, $19,049.55. And underwater installation of 12-inch insertion valve for $12,700. We have no unfinished business. For new business, we'll have an introduction of an ordinance for 2021 land management code amendments, approval of resolution comprehensive plan amendments, approval of a resolution subrecipient agreement for Horizon Goodwill ARPA funds, approval of 2022 sustainable community plan renewal, approval of fiscal year 21 general fund surplus allocations, approval of requests for water service for TC Mid-Atlantic Development under the city's water and wastewater policy, approval of funding support for the Black Economic Empowerment Summit, approval for the citywide mowing contract, and approval of the Eastern Sports Management Phase 2 contract. We have city administrator comments, mayor, council comments, and we'll adjourn. Good to go?
One question.
What's up?
State of the city. Is that gonna be like in person?
Yes. At the Maryland Theater. Doors open at 6:30 a.m. It's my favorite time of the day.
We'll take it easy on you on the agenda for the first.
All right, up next we have an update on the Cdbg funded micro enterprise grant program. Lauren and Jonathan.
Lauren, you want to start?
Sure. Good afternoon. So we are here this afternoon to give you an update on the Micro Enterprise Grant Program. As you may remember, we brought the guidelines and application to you in July of last year. In September, we opened applications. We accept applications on a rolling basis until funding has been fully expended. To date, 10 businesses have received the maximum funding, which is $5,000 per business. Of these businesses, 6 are located in our downtown. It is available citywide, though. And they include restaurants, retail, home improvement, healthcare, and hairstyling businesses. We have 3 other businesses that are currently being reviewed and pending approval for the program. And we anticipate we can have an additional 2 businesses before funding has been completely expended for this cycle. And so far, I think we are very pleased with the reception and the feedback to the program. And I'll pass it over to Jonathan to provide additional information and next steps for the program.
Yeah, so this being the first time we've offered this program, I think the response has been positive thus far. Just a few questions to consider going forward, and I don't think we're looking for any answers today, but as we're looking to refund this program in next fiscal year 23, with our CDBG budget again, I think some things we'll be thinking about as we bring this back during budget discussions and possible guideline changes in the future would be handling repeat applications. I think that's been a question that's been brought up by some of the applicants. Our first initial thought from a staff perspective is we'd be a little bit hesitant on that for the second year, just because if you have new businesses coming into the community, we don't want all the current businesses who've utilized the funding July 1st right away applying and then possibly using up all that funding and taking away opportunities from new businesses that could be starting. Again, that's some food for thought, maybe for discussion later this year during the summer as we're looking at fiscal year 23 starting. Some other unique businesses that I don't think we were envisioning that would apply for this program, but it could be co-op style businesses. We have the new foundry business that's actually utilizing our Hager Center space that will be working with smaller businesses in a co-op format, not a traditional business that has their own commercial space and their own lease or their primary location. That they could be, again, maybe from out of the area, and they're working with the foundry and have a table set up and selling product in the foundry space. What we were looking at considering there was maybe having them be applied through the guidelines similar to the roving business language. We said if you can prove that if that's your primary business location, or you're proving that at least 2/3 of your operation is within the city, that we could still consider you for the grant program. So I'm not sure if there was any concerns about that type of business, since it is much more unique than a traditional business. It's again in their own tenant space or clearly located in the city, and they have a different type relationship with a co-op style location with the foundry. But again, for right now, we're really happy with the response that we've received and the businesses we've been able to assist thus far, and we're looking forward to funding this again in fiscal year 23, as long as our CDBG budget numbers come in as we're expecting them to come in soon.
Yes, thank you.
I like hearing the various businesses, you know.
Yeah, it's
That's nice to.
such a wide range of businesses. I mean, hair salons, restaurants, retail, contractor businesses.
That's great.
It's definitely been, I think, a really variety of businesses all across the city, some in the downtown, but some still throughout the entire city. So it's
Proves our growth.
yeah, I think I do want to give Lauren a shout out, because in our CDBG program, we typically do income reviews for these businesses. That's how they qualify. There's the federal funded guidelines that are set up, and we do that a lot for homeowner repair programs. I would say those are much more straightforward. Trying to do income determinations for small businesses is much more complex, and we've learned that, and we've worked through that. So Lauren's done a great job with that, and we've worked through some kinks there as well. Any concerns with co-op style businesses like the foundry type business model?
I don't have an issue with that.
No.
Okay. All right, well, we'll look forward to coming back again maybe in the summer, and again, we'll be thinking about how we handle possible repeat applications in the future. One thought we had was maybe there's a moratorium for businesses who've received it the next year. They maybe are not eligible the following year. That's a simple way to think about it. I think that'll be an easier question to also maybe answer after 2 years to see where the demand lands. But again, thanks to the mayor and council for getting this program up and running last year, and looking forward to it in the future as well.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, up next, we have the discussion of the A&E district boundaries for our redesignation application. Jill and Kathy.
I have an additional handout, and I think we're gonna put the images up on the screen.
Wes. I think they're gonna put. Oh, there he is.
Thank you.
Can't recognize him anymore.
I'm Michelle. Okay, either way.
Spring cut going on.
Yeah, spring cleaning. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. We're here to talk about the Arts and Entertainment District redesignation application. and to review some of the feedback that we received during two community listening sessions, as well as a public survey in which we received some feedback on the redesignation of the Arts and Entertainment District, specifically the boundaries. And I wanted to emphasize the time sensitivity of preparing for the redesignation application, which is due the 1st of April, with our goal to submit by March 30th. So the city will hold a public hearing to review the redesignation application, as well as the boundaries, next Tuesday. And what we wanted to discuss with you today is the feedback that we heard, and can we prepare for a modified map to be presented during the public hearing that represents your goals and your desires for the extent of the district. We can receive any additional feedback during the public hearing that we can then make minor tweaks or additional adjustments to the boundaries. The goal of finalizing the boundaries by March 8th at the latest, that allows us to work through the resolution process, that you will need to pass a resolution that defines the boundaries and the benefits of the program, that then allow us to submit the application. So we're looking at a timeline that takes us through March 22nd, regular session, for that approval of the resolution. So let me show you this first image. Shows a discussion that we had back in November, I think it was, where we looked at the current district boundaries shown in the red line and potential adjustments to the blue line, which included Hospital Hill and some adjustments in some of the areas. So the community feedback that we received, advance this. In your packet is a hand drawing. We were able to work with our GIS staff person, Jesse, to help make this a little bit easier to read. So the recommendations and the suggestions from the community input includes expanding it in a number of areas. There is some overall justification for a larger district, given the duration that we've had the Arts and Entertainment District for a 20-year period, that a larger district may be warranted because of the evolution and the growth of the program over the 20 years that it has been in existence. I'll walk through the specific areas on the map that are outlined in your memo as well. The first is an arm to the north that would include the Dolman Black Heritage Museum and also the Jonathan Street corridor and the commercial area of the Jonathan Street corridor, and also Wheaton Park, recognizing the redevelopment that will occur in that area, in the commercially zoned area, and also the art installation and the public space improvements that are happening in Wheaton Park. Then we have the redevelopment of the Market House property and the desire of the private developer to not only operate a brewery, but also an entertainment business. So the idea of programming that facility with special events and live entertainment could be justification for inclusion of that property inside the district. There's been lots of feedback received and discussion about the inclusion of the Multipurpose Stadium. This would include a full schedule of independent league baseball games, but also the multi-use purpose of the stadium to include performing arts and other types of special events. The waiver of the admission and amusement tax would be for eligible ticketed events that could be attracted to the facility, and keeping prices reasonable as a result. Eligible artists that use the facility or perform within the facility may also be eligible for an income tax subtraction offered within the district. The Baltimore Street and the Greenwood District Development Area is also shown as included on this map. There are private property owners and business owners in this area that are looking at redevelopment efforts, as well as attracting small businesses and arts and entertainment enterprises into this area. So inclusion here would help those development efforts that are happening. And then you see on the southern part of the map, a southern arm that would include the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, City Park, and also the Cultural Trail. Justification for inclusion here includes the fact that the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts is one of our leading arts attractions. They are looking at possible expansion of the museum to the Bach Oil site in City Park. And so that's shown within. Also, the 10-year Community City Center plan calls for connectivity between downtown and the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts, and the tourism benefits that could be achieved with that connectivity. Also, the programming of the Cultural Arts Trail could benefit any performing artists that either perform or sell their wares at events along the Cultural Trail. And then included in the first draft was the development site of Hospital Hill that is part of the Community City Center plan as opportunities for cultural heritage and tourism. Inclusion of this site would provide an additional tool to attract new investment that could contribute to arts, entertainment, cultural heritage, and tourism. So we wanted to engage in a conversation with you about the feedback that we received and about these areas and your desires for the size and scope of the Arts and Entertainment District. I wanted to back up in the memo and briefly describe the 3 benefits of the Arts and Entertainment District. The incentives that are offered are a real estate property tax credit on eligible property renovation and development projects, and that is on the change in assessed value that occurs from that type of development. A second benefit is the waiver of admission and amusement tax on eligible ticketed events, and an income tax subtraction for Maryland resident artists that are either performing or selling within the district. And an additional benefit, certainly, of an arts and entertainment district is the cohesiveness and the collaboration for those that are within the boundaries. So with that, I'd like to open it up for conversation and discussion and receive your feedback.
Are those 3 criteria, are they ands, 1 and 2 and 3, or are they ors? They could be offered, or if you're in the entertainment district, if you're in the A&E district, you get 1, 2, and 3.
Our current district offers all 3, and if you as a single person are eligible for all 3, it would be an and statement.
Do we have to offer all 3?
I believe the feedback from the state would be that the arts and entertainment districts across the state generally offer all 3, and that an application for redesignation would be viewed most favorably if all 3
Okay.
were to continue.
Okay.
And there, we would have to fact check this, but I'm not sure if there is a district in the state that does not offer all 3, but we can certainly check that and get back to you.
And were there any other A&E districts in the state that were not contiguous?
The state requires the boundaries to be contiguous, and we did fact check that recently with the state. We need to provide justification if a district is greater than 100 acres. And this current drawing shows approximately a net acreage of 160 if you subtract out the green space within the district. And then the third item in your memo is that the boundaries are set for a 10-year period, and an A&E district can modify its boundaries within that 10-year period through a expansion application. The memo talks about a full redesignation application, but a correction there is that the city would need to apply for an expansion application during the 10-year period, which has been described as comprehensive as a redesignation application.
You say an expansion application, could it also be a subtraction? Or does it have to be an expansion of the district?
It would just be a change.
Yeah, they call the
It says desires to
application,
modify.
yeah,
It's just a modification, so things could
Yeah.
come out, okay.
could be.
Well, I attended the listening sessions, and I'll just say you guys did a pretty good job on figuring out how to make all that work, because there were a lot of suggestions made, and looking at this, it looks like we met every one that was requesting to be in here.
Okay. I appreciate the other maps of the other cities also, that, you know, their arts and entertainment districts. It's interesting to see that Frederick has 362 acres of A&E boundaries. It's a lot, and they're the highest. But my question is, this is redone every 10 years, yes?
Yes.
I'm familiar mostly with Berlin and Frederick, and of course, their growth has exploded, right, in both of those cities. Do you know when they expanded their maps by chance? And my second question is, does Frederick's map include, I can't tell, and Bob doesn't have Superman eyes, he said, if this is their stadium, is this where,
I don't think that is.
so is their
Can't tell what
stadium
70 is,
included
I
in the A&E district?
I agree with Kathy, I don't think that is.
It might
And-
be Carroll Creek
Okay. Oh, this is
That
Carroll
would
Creek
make more
here?
sense.
on the,
Oh, that side, okay. Do you know, like, when they redesigned their maps by chance?
We could get the dates of each of the A&E districts across the state. I do not have that with me today.
Just curious, because again, their growth has been tremendous, right?
Right.
So did that help by expanding
Right.
all of those boundaries?
I think another reason for us to include this is that the shape of districts can be, odd-shaped.
Yeah,
So
so I
we
see.
wanted to demonstrate that,
anything down the street. that's not-
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. That was very helpful, thank you.
So, when I look at the notes on the top of the back page of page 1, I think I need to understand more clearly what A, B, and C really means. I mean, because we have a lot of words, right, on these pages about what folks are asking us to do. And I'm just your average taxpayer, right? I have a house, I pay $1,200, $1,300 a year in taxes for services that I receive from the city, right? And at this table in this room, we've had any number of discussions on what that fair share means, whether we're talking about commercial development, housing developments, nonprofits, and things like that. And, you know, it's funny, so about a year ago, I wrote down these things, and you can stop me if you've heard this before, but I think I said this a year ago, that we need to talk to the folks that are developing the stadium about what their plans are for property tax, business personal property tax, A&A tax, A&E expansion, stormwater management fee, water and sewer connection costs, off-site improvements for costs associated with drainage, utility, traffic, and parking. Who's gonna cover the cost of the cultural trail relocation and participation in the parking deck fees. And I said it a few weeks back that, you know, it's nice to have these things ironed out so that we have a firm footing on what that expectation is between the parties as we go through this really big project. And now here we are at the 11th hour of a change in the A&E district process, right? And I have no idea from all of these words on a page what the three items in A, B, and C mean to me, the average taxpayer, how much I'm gonna be asked to then kick in to cover the service costs associated with this development. And here's why that's important. We collect about $29, $30 million a year in taxes, in general fund taxes, right? Property tax. Of that, we spend about 80% of it, rough ballpark, 10 million on fire, 14, 15 million on police, right? Of that 30 million, which leaves us about 6 million bucks left to do everything else. And we have a really big venue that's proposing to be constructed here, that guess what it's going to need? Additional police service, additional fire service, right? So I need to understand when I read A, B, and C, what it means that the real property tax credit on eligible properties and the renovation costs and development projects, what that means. So these 5 properties right now in that area that's gonna be developed, right, that's gonna get that investment, is gonna go from A to B. Meaning right now you pay an amount of taxes A. Does that mean at the end of it, you're gonna pay an amount of taxes A, or is it a different number? Because it sounds to me like it's still gonna be A. And that is a wholly different development than what's there now as it applies to the necessity of providing it with those basic public services. So it's gonna cost somebody to do that. And I read B, and I don't know what it means when you see waiver of admission and amusement tax for eligible ticketed events. I need to know what that number is and what that means to our budget, no differently than when I read the income tax subtraction for Maryland resident artists performing. I don't know what the numbers are that apply to that. As it applies to the overall budget, then I'm gonna look at others then, just as I have with these housing developments and nonprofit operations and all these other things we've talked about it, and said, hey, taxpayer, you're gonna have to pick up the additional unknown amount for those additional public services for this development.
So I will just say the easiest one right now to respond to, and the reason I say the easiest, is the current admission and amusement tax on eligible ticketed items. Right now, because the city of Hagerstown has an A&A tax implemented, the only things that are excluded are taxes being charged for arts and entertainment, which has been defined by the state of Maryland. So for instance, the Maryland Theater is within our A&E district, and the events there fall under the arts and entertainment venue. So they are excluded from A&A, meaning they've never had to record or notate what that would be. They haven't sent it to the state. What I can say is things like athletic events are not currently excluded, even if you're within the A&E district. Excuse me. So our total admission and amusement tax that we get in the general fund for 5 years, like just an average, it was $314,000. That's if I include fiscal year 20 and 21, which had COVID and pandemic impacts. So if I do a 5-year average before COVID, which is our fiscal years 15 to 19, our total was about $352,000, which is almost a penny and a half on the tax rate. The 2 largest contributors in the past that we have received admissions and amusement tax from were Cancun Cantina. I'm sorry, it's dry in the building. I've been talking all day.
Do you want water?
As well as Municipal Stadium. That would be terrific. I'm very sorry. So again, Cancun Cantina, when it was open, because they had a lot of ticketed events, as well as Municipal Stadium.
Okay. So do we have an expectation of what that number is? Because what I've heard through this process, and I have no issue with, is we're talking about there's gonna be athletic events, there's going to be non-athletic events, and there's going to be some form of gaming.
Correct.
Some form of gaming that could evolve over time, right? And so I'm sitting here asking myself, today it's those types of activities, tomorrow it's an expansion of those types of activities. And the implication or the indication I have here is it's gonna cost the city taxpayer, if you will, some amount to provide service to that. And so I'm trying to figure out, what that differentiation is, because it is certainly, much more pointed than the words on this page.
So, to go along with that, the struggles that I have is that there has been new legislation proposed. And it's been proposed, and it would change what is the definition of eligible ticketed events to include any activity that occurred in any of these places throughout our A&E district.
That we draw. I wanna make sure it's clear.
Yes, we draw the A&E
Local
district.
government draws that district.
Correct.
We could draw that the size of a postage stamp on the corner of a street, just as easy as we could draw it 200 acres and cover the entire downtown. We make that decision. So that
Correct.
bill to me is only as applicable as we draw the district for it to be.
And as long as, right, and as long as the state would approve it as part of our A&E designation, correct,
We could draw it around the library and say the library's it,
correct,
the Maryland Theater's it.
yes,
And that bill doesn't mean anything at that point.
correct.
So I've talked to Senator Quarterman about this bill, and it won't be heard until March 2nd, and he has agreed to not push the issue with the bill as long as the stadium is included in the A&E district, and we can sit down and negotiate then. So,
So I guess that's what
I
I'm trying to
trust his
figure
word.
out, though, is we've known all of this is coming about. Both parties obviously have positions on the matter, right? And I don't have it with me today. I wish I did. I wish I'd have looked at it. Clearly there was a $500,000 study done on the feasibility of this stadium, right? And in that feasibility study were complicated numbers associated with revenue and expense. So within that complicated calculation of revenue and expense, somebody at some point had to put down a number of what they expected to pay in various taxes, and fees, and services, right? So I want to know what that number was, whether there was an expectation and now there is a change in the expectation from what that feasibility said could be supported, and why we would be then, you know what I mean, entertaining that alteration if the feasibility study said, yeah, this is part of the cost to play, so to speak, and therefore it should be in there. And for me, I can't find anywhere in here where it says, one, this is what your loss is. I mean, I feel like we ask that of just about every private development proposal we're asked to party in some form of is, what's the loss on our side of the equation and what's the gain on the other side of the equation? Because one of the gains that I heard on the other side of the equation that I've long heard on this particular item is the estimated increase in associated assessment elevations within the immediate surrounding area, and you've just taken that area and drawn it even bigger, therefore taking away the estimated increase in that assessable valuation within the immediate area that you expected to receive that revenue boost from. Not only are we doing that, now we're actually taking that revenue boost and losing it, and then losing the associated revenue we could gain from that byproduct, and having to eat that within our budget. And that number could be 200,000, and you could say, oh, it's about 200,000 bucks, and I'd say, okay, I understand that number. It could be $1.5 million. And now we've got to find a way to tell others to pick up that $1.5 million tab to provide that service demand.
Do we collect any A&A tax from the museum?
No, not currently. And so just to describe the A&A process, it's not the actual city collecting the tax, and it's not a fee that is charged to a landowner, a tenant. It is actually a charge that is assessed to the people who are coming to that venue to view that.
And you mean like the museum that gets like 100 people on its best day through it,
But I think,
right? not 5,000
Yeah, I mean,
people.
but the point is, I don't know why, I guess why are we including the museum and the arts and entertainment district?
Do they charge? Do they
Yeah,
charge
I-
museums right now?
Art
They have
museum?
events with artists, so the artists could do the income tax subtraction. And for the last 2 times that we did the redesignation, we heard a great deal of consternation from the museum that they were not in the A&E district, being, the second. There's some kind of, Tom Ryford would know, there's some kind of term for how our museum stacks in the state. And for them not to be in the A&E district, there was always consternation expressed. But we were following the state recommendation to keep it tight. But as you can see from these other ones we included in the packet, not a lot of other communities were worried about keeping it tight. They were including the organizations that wanted to be included.
Total state income tax money that we receive is a little over $3 million. The income tax subtraction, we do not get any level of any details from the state. So I can reach out to them and pose the question, but what happens with the income tax subtraction is if you're the artist, you go and you perform, you get paid $1,000. When you do your income taxes at the end of the year, you report the $1,000, and then there is a section where you're allowed to do subtractions. It is not a dollar for dollar credit. It does not mean if, as an individual and a performer, if I've earned $1,000, I get to subtract that whole $1,000. No, it's
Percentage.
correct. It's not a dollar for dollar back in your pocket. So it's a subtraction. So the actual percentage that it ends up being, I don't know. And I don't have a way to tell from the state how much is being reduced that would be applicable to us.
And the property tax, which I don't think we've used in the 20
Not
years,
yet.
is only for when you renovate or build a new building. As it was described to me by the state, you can only take this tax credit for that portion of the building that's renovated for an eligible A&E enterprise. So you could build, a 50,000 square foot building, and wouldn't that be great? But if only 1,000 square feet of it is for an arts and entertainment enterprise, then you get the credit on that 1,000 square feet. And then the rest of it is the normal tax rate.
And I would add that the A&E district real estate property tax credit has been not utilized and underutilized because the entire CCMU zoning district is also designated as an enterprise zone.
Right.
So the benefits of participating in the enterprise zone is what most developers gravitate toward.
Outweighs the.
Somebody's got to be able to ballpark this number, right? And it is naive to sit here and believe that this isn't going to have an impact on the necessity of the provision of those services.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, somebody's got to say, hey, and I've heard, hey, we're going to sit down and work this out, but we're at like, you know what I mean? We're at like this point where I don't have any number before me that says, you know what, this entity wants to offer X or Y. You know what I mean? In fact, what I wrote back when we asked the very question, I forget which one it was, might have been the York example, that the user provides a pilot. Like, I mean, I feel like I wrote these things down a year ago. Should have been some conversation about, okay, what's an agreeable number, no differently than we do for any other private development, and know what that is, you know what I mean, before we get to this point in time.
Joey, I'm sorry, Chief. Let's say we have a new facility, multi-use facility in downtown, okay? And there are 70 baseball games played there a year, and there's 100 other events. What's your manpower need?
Well, it's gonna depend on the activity.
Because you don't know, right?
Right.
We got a lot of people showing up at these events. Doesn't necessarily mean we need to have more police officers for that, so. A lot of times more people means safer.
Right.
The answer, I don't have a real answer for you.
Exactly. Which is why there hasn't been any discussion of a pilot, because nobody knows what that's gonna look like.
Well, and right now, it's a fully taxable
Right.
site anyway.
Right, but if it's included in the A&E district, okay? And, because for me, I mean, even back in 2012, when we were talking originally about the stadium down there, you know, my question was the same about the A&E district. I said, you know, they have to do something, if they're included in the A&E district, they're gonna have to do something to help offset the cost of services that the city is gonna have to pick up for, whether it be, you know, a street department or whatever, because there's gonna be additional cost to it. And the taxpayer should not have to pick that bill up for a venue that makes money. And, you know, so there has to be some kind of a agreement of what that's gonna look like, whether it's, and again, A&A tax is 10%, correct?
Yes, and actually, in that 2020 study, we increased the amount of A&A because it was going to be all these expanded events and going to be utilized so many days in a year and wasn't going to be excluded.
But anyway, so I believe, as the mayor pointed out, the conversation that she had with the senator about this legislation that he put in was to, okay, hold off on that, don't follow through with it, let us figure it out, let us come up with a pilot of some sort that covers the expense for the taxpayers, because the taxpayers shouldn't pick this up. And, you know, it may equate to 2.5%. I mean, I don't know what it's gonna be, per ticket or whatever, but there's gotta be a number associated with it. And unfortunately, the chief doesn't know that number right now. And if I asked the fire chief, and he's not here, he wouldn't have that number either. And, you know, Eric Dykey wouldn't have that number either. And so, you know, let's include it in the A&E and go ahead and go down and do the cultural trail and the museum and Jonathan Hager House and the Bockwell building and move forward. And then over the next 2 years, when we get to a point where we're actually gonna have an event there, we'll know what our cost is gonna be associated with whatever event it's gonna be. And then we proceed that way.
Staff says very clearly here, it's our understanding that if an A&E district desires to modify the boundaries prior to the 10-year renewal date, a full redesignation application is required. I'd be more than happy to lead the charge through that redesignation process in 2 years when somebody tells me what those numbers are, and I have an agreement in front of me where all parties have said, yep, this is the number it is. There is no way.
Well, I'm okay with not doing it for 2 more years.
That I'm going
I'm fine with that.
to agree to add it in now, not having any idea of what I've then just automatically obligated the citizens of this city to pick up the tab on because it's an unknown quantity, and remains so.
Buddy, listen, put it off 2 years, I'm good with that.
I don't understand why we would put it off for 2 years. If it's, we can take it out in 2 years or whatever, why would we not put it in now?
I'm okay with putting the boundaries the way they are. I'm okay with this proposal.
Suggested
proposal. That's mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that there's going to be a collaboration of efforts. The senator has said so, and I trust that. Yeah, I'm okay with the way it is.
Councilmember McIntyre.
No. I mean,
We know.
We know, yeah, we know.
I just like to see numbers.
Got ya.
I know, I wish I could too, Chris.
Right, but we don't
And an agreement. Listen, to say we don't know, we can figure that out. I mean, everybody at this table and the folks we're working with are certainly smart enough to figure out what a pilot is. We go through every number of private negotiation development proposals, right? Of, $100 million, and we can figure out the number that we can agree to that we're comfortable with.
But right now, we don't need a pilot. The stadium is fully taxable right now. When it's built, it is fully taxable. So if we wanted to look at it in the other direction, that if that property exemption on the improvements on the areas that would be eligible to have arts and entertainment done, that number becomes, because we don't know what the design of we don't know any of that stuff yet, because that's still not available to any of us. But you would, once we knew that, then perhaps we could work out an agreement there. But right now, they're full boat on taxes for that stadium.
Right, and we don't collect a single tax from the Maryland Theater. We don't collect a single tax from the museum. We don't collect a single tax from these other not-for-profit entities that are gonna be in the A&E district.
We wouldn't anyway.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But currently, we don't either, so it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Right.
But
Yeah.
this facility is fully taxed, even if it's included in the A&E district.
Right.
But we're talking now more about these other three issues, which are admission and amusement tax and,
Right.
you know.
And most of the other areas included go away from the stadium are nonprofits also. We're not getting anything out of them anyway.
Right, right, that's what I know.
So the stadium would be one of a handful perhaps that would be fully taxed.
Yeah.
That if they wanted to get that exemption for that improvement, again, it wouldn't be for the whole facility.
Right.
It would be for that area that would get the improvement in an area of the parcel that would have eligible arts and entertainment events, like
But the enterprise
ballroom
zone actually
or something.
makes up a much larger benefit to the developer than what the A&E district.
So when I read item A, it says real property tax credit on eligible property renovations/development projects. What is the tax application to that bullet point?
The incentive itself is a tax credit on the change in assessed value for an arts and entertainment district enterprise.
So explain that to me. Let's say right now the property is assessed at $1 million. Okay? Let's say tomorrow the property is assessed at $50 million.
Without a building on it.
No. Once it's done, I'm trying to go the
Okay.
2-year down the road route, right?
Change is 40 million.
The change is $49 million.
Right.
Somebody's got to be able to tell me what that figure is that's going to impact the city budget. Are you saying it doesn't impact the city budget at all?
With the multi-purpose facility, it's gonna be a little tricky to know that because they're
Right.
probably gonna be using the same space.
Correct.
Then it comes down to an interpretation, probably by somebody at the state, as to how that would work.
Let's say $20 million.
Yeah, we're not talking
Right.
about a stadium.
I'll cut it in
Let's talk
half.
about something else. Let's use the Shockey building. Let's use that as an example. 'cause
So it would be how much of the Shockey building was renovated for an eligible A&E
So
enterprise?
49
split that
million
Shockey
is-
building
So
into a
if we say
theater.
50, if we say 50%, I think that's what Councilmember
Yeah.
Alshire.
I'm cutting it in half. I'll do
Yep.
an even 20.
Yep.
Right? So it jumped $20 million in assessed value. What does that mean to the city budget?
Well, it means we're still getting the same tax on the million that it was.
That now requires more city services, which is an unknown quantity. I mean, you shake your head, I'm thinking of all the nights I passed Cancun Cantina that we were collecting on, you know what I mean? And think about the services we had to deliver to that place. So it definitely needs more services, right? I mean, we're kidding ourselves, I think it does.
Not arguing that point.
No, I'm talking about the
that's
number
there
of
a lot of
public
service
safety
that we-
personnel that'll be required to be provided for that type of activity. An entertainment-oriented activity of that multitude of people.
I think we can all agree that the Cancun Cantina and the municipal stadium are two different.
I'm not saying they're the same, I'm saying that
Requirements of services.
they both required additional public safety services.
Correct,
Right?
correct.
They're both going to require a different level than the Shockey building, or the Maryland Theater, or the museum. I'm asking what the number
I've
is
seen the Maryland
when it
Theater.
goes up 20 million. What's the loss?
The current percentage is 50% of the change in assessed value for the eligible part for a 10-year period.
Okay.
And when we were in front of you in November, we looked at all of the percentages across the state, and there was a recommendation to increase.
Mm-hmm. Right, I remember that.
Increase that.
Mm-hmm.
So you would receive the tax revenue for.
20 million.
For the,
on 75%, so
right,
if 50% of the, if the change is 40 million and only 50% of the building, right, is being used for arts and entertainment, that's 20 million, but then 50% of that.
That's right, you're down to 10. Or if
Right.
it's 75, it's 15, I got you.
right,
Times
So-
tax
So
rate.
times the
Times
Times the tax rate.
the tax rate,
Times tax rate.
right. Over 10 years.
Yes, 10 years, just like
In 10
enterprise,
years, you get full bill.
after 10 years, on the 11th.
Well, unless you
Again, if
redesignate,
you're an
unless you
enterprise, then you get a
redesignate.
much
Yeah.
better benefit than you do with the unique district reduction.
So that's roughly, that's $1 million a year, right? That's $1 million a year at a declining scale, based on the way we've set up the A&E district, right? For a 10-year period, right? If you're at 10 million, divided by the 100, you're at $1 million, times
the
1.06, you're at $1 million bucks,
So, yes,
right?
nice even
So I
number.
just think that it's important for council to understand for the first 10 years of the life of providing services, that improvement, even if it's half that and then 50%, your loss over a 10-year period. And I don't know why this is so controversial. We have the same exact discussions about housing developments that ask for pilots, right? And 15% of the tax rate. We look at the same numbers and say, what's that impact gonna be to the city? The same conversations, and this, over a 10-year period, is somewhere between $5 and $10 million.
Based on the numbers that we used in this example, yes,
And that's for letter A.
yes.
And that's if it's half of that 50, or 40% of that 50, and then half of that, so your loss, somewhere you gotta find a way to cover the difference of that $5 to $10 million loss over the first 10-year period, and some
You're talking like this
escalation.
is property tax revenue, and it's not. This is A&A tax revenue that we're talking about here.
No, this is the
No, the
change in assessed
property-
value.
No, you're
It
talking
is.
two
The
separate
Item A
things.
is property. That is your loss.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's-
okay, I'm
that's
back on the
assuming
same
that
page
all of
now.
these
Sorry,
buildings
I
would
jumped
be
off for a second.
half
Okay.
filled with art galleries and half filled with theaters, which is
Yeah,
not too
I-
likely. The state is very stingy on what they define as eligible arts and entertainment enterprise, and they're all arts kinds of things. Dancing, theater, artists, things like that. And so that's why,
Concerts.
even though this is an A&E district, we tend to have already our major A&E anchors. It's a matter of, are we gonna get any more art galleries? Are some little tiny theaters gonna open up? That kind of thing.
I feel safe with the $1 million figure. Like, I mean, that's a conservative figure that I would feel safe with. For the first 10 years, you're looking at not, in law, but not receiving that $1 million. And then for me, I have to sit there
But
and
how
think,
much are you
okay,
receiving?
it's whatever the current is for the 10-year period. So right now, if you're getting $10,000 a year in taxes, you're gonna keep getting $10,000 a year instead of the 1 million, $10,000.
Unless there's an
It's $1 million.
agreement reached that covers the cost of services that we don't know what that cost is yet. And comparing that to a housing development is apples and oranges, but, because it's not 24/7 there, where it is 24/7 in the housing development. So, again, I believe we move forward with the A&E designation, and if we work this out, it all comes out in the wash. As long as it does not negatively impact.
I hear you. I'm happy to add them in or consider adding them in when I know what that pilot is.
I got you.
To Keisha
Was
and
everybody
Tiara, you
else?
guys are good moving forward as proposed.
All right, we're good.
Thank you.
All right, up next, we have the Clara Barton Memorial.
Good afternoon. Back in,
I just got that last week. Pretty proud of it, actually.
Is that your retirement gift?
Yeah, that's all I'm getting.
Apparently there is, and it's. in
That's
the
why he
engineering
wanted a new car in the budget.
That's right.
too.
Come work with a winning team.
Danny's gonna be liaison because we're like, yeah, guess what now?
Oh, now I lost my train of thought. In October, we heard a proposal from the Clara Barton Committee regarding the construction of a memorial to Clara Barton on our property that we own down at 319 Summit, which is where the former service station was. We also had a discussion last week, I'll talk about it here in a second, as a public meeting last Thursday. If we want to move forward with this, what we need to do now is approve 2 agreements with, the first would be with Toby for the site construction agreement, and the second would be an artwork donation agreement. So the first one gets it built, the second one, once the art is there, then who owns it, who takes care of it, all those kind of things. Those 2 agreements are attached in your packet. The city's share of the funds, which is about 10% of the cost of the entire project, they're raising the other 90%, would be in our FY23 budget that you'll be seeing here in the next few weeks. We wouldn't expend any money other than some engineering work until they've raised their money and the statue or the sculpture is getting fabricated. Back to the discussion on the meeting last week, what I understood was the upshot of that was that if this moves forward, we also want to have other things in that triangle. There's still quite a bit of property there that the city owns. So what we talked about last week was a piece of interactive art that would pay homage to the city's history or our innovation that happened in the city, whether that would be, planes, Crawford cars, bicycle trolleys, bicycles. There's so much of that kind of stuff. Not actual physical car out there, but a sculpture, something that
Like the Dagmar.
respects. Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the proposal.
I'm good. Yeah.
And
I'm still.
on the second part, and I see the redraw different from that.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, I'm looking at this and I don't mean to nitpick. I think we had a very good discussion. We were able to sort of share our ideas of what we envision. And so I hope you felt the same way that I thought, it was a good talk. Just want to make sure that, that there's that good visibility because you have 2 streets coming in and it's not sort of a wall, if you will. And I get you can't negate the visual impediments of the utility lines and things, but again, as a city resident, that's like wallpaper to me. And you know what I mean? You see this stuff anymore, that stuff just is background noise. And I like the different types of trees versus.
Toby and I talked today, we will use our own landscape architect to design that so that we can make sure that we accomplish what everybody wants there.
And that Al's not allowed to climb all over.
Oh, we did.
I heard that, so Toby mentioned that to me, so
We did
this
resolve
won't be like the pod that we can walk
There you
on.
go.
Yeah, as a committee, I just am pleased to report since October, we've made great progress in our fundraising and have received almost $100,000 in cash contributions through the Community Foundation already. We have also been able to meet with and secure approval from the state delegation, Senator Quarterman and Delegate Tham, to submit bond bill for $250,000 in the legislature, and in fact, it's already on the legislature's site as a filed bill as of this afternoon. So that's there if you'd like to take a look at that. We also are anticipating talking with the county as well to get some support from them as for hotel motel tax money, and we're excited that the fundraising is moving along very smoothly. So we're anticipating with your support that will enable us to facilitate further speaking with other donors that this is a go, and we're anticipating that we'll be able to move forward with raising the necessary funds and making a really nice addition to the community and a wonderful memorial to both Clara Barton, the first nurse on the battlefield, and something that I think will be outstanding for our community to enjoy for many years to come.
Thank you, guys.
Toby?
I don't have a lot to add to that, but the momentum is measurable. We're hearing a great deal of support from the nursing community for this. You know, when you're doing fundraising and out of the blue, you get a $25,000 check that you did not expect or ask for. And even just on the grassroots level that, you know, we're getting small checks coming in. You know, we're at roughly about 1/4 of the funds needed to be raised, which I think is incredible. And it's not just Washington County, and it's not just Maryland. It's creeping into Pennsylvania and Virginia and so forth. And I haven't seen this before on a project, so it's very encouraging. I'd like to have Tom talk about, you know, our momentum with the state and other entities.
Could you give Tom the mic?
Oh, my goodness.
He has a limited time.
Yeah.
Just call for a vote.
Thanks. It's a real pleasure to work on a project with Toby Mendez again. You know, he's a world-renowned sculptor, and to have Elizabeth Dole as our honorary chair is kind of neat. There's not a lot of things that you have that kind of national attention. Clara Barton, you know, was the real deal. This is just such a perfect project to honor her and to honor all of the medical professionals that are on the front lines day in and day out, just like she was. And I'm very excited to be part of this. You know, Senator Quarterman and Delegate Cham both stepped forward and they said, yes, we want our local delegation to approve, which they did, to move forward with the full delegation approving a bond bill of this significance. And when you take that and all the other money we're raising, I think that we're going to be on track to be able to meet several deadlines that are important to this project. This year is the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Antietam. Right?
Yes.
Did I get that right? Okay. Hope I did. And it would be great to sort of bring it in here and sort of unveil the maquette when it's ready for prime time. That's the little statue, you know, that Toby is just about done with.
We expect to have that ready shortly next month. If you'd like to see it, we
I
can
think
bring it back.
that'd be great. Be able to continue to move. That's right. Her birthday was Christmas, 200th birthday. So it's kind of great timing to do this. There's a lot of wonderful anniversaries to acknowledge. At any rate, you know I get excited about things like this, and thank you, Madam Mayor and everybody, for letting me have the microphone for a little bit. Thank you.
Are you guys all good with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
City
Appreciate
Administrator.
everyone's support for this great project.
Mayor, just notification that city offices are closed on Monday for President's Day. All the folks down in the south end to get their garbage collected on Monday night. Set it out, garbage collection stays normal. That's it for me, thank you.
Good to see you.
Councilmember McIntyre.
I have nothing.
Councilmember Bucci.
Well. Just real quick, just the conversations that we had at this table this evening just shows you that how much the city is moving forward and progressing and getting things accomplished, and very happy to be part of it. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Burnett? Councilmember Alshire?
I don't even know what's happening over here. That was so nice.
I have something. Everybody's probably aware of the accident that occurred on Virginia Avenue last week. They probably saw, you know, the goodness of technology and social media as you get to see everything at all times, everywhere now. And I'll just say this, you know, there are a lot of streets that traverse this city that are state and county routes that are really city streets. I just want our residents to remain cognizant of that. I guess it was, around 4 o'clock that the accident occurred.
Yep.
So my daughter was walking up that street at about 3:30, so it's just weird to see that she walks that street every day and then to see those cars in the area she walks. That's a little odd. So just folks, when you're coming into town, just, slow down. Yeah.
I'd like to read a poem that I spent lunch period at Northern Middle School, and so there was 4 different groups, and we wrote a poem together, and it's called the Community Poem, and so this is their poem. It's Tuesday. I love Tuesdays. Tuesdays are tiring, but also beautiful. Tuesdays are like the morning flowers of the week. They are just beginning to blossom. Tuesday, so nice and warm, was also a day for a newborn, soft and tender with good weather. It's Tuesday, it should go by just like an unattached feather, just as the morning fly by. Tuesdays or any day can be a good day. Summer comes and I'm free. Tuesdays are the best day for relaxing and thinking. Also, at first, it seems so long, but it's all gone in a flash. I'm glad today's Tuesday because that's when the week starts moving faster to hit Friday. Tuesday is the nice day, always shining. Tuesday is the day you can eat tacos with something, I'm mocking, Tuesday is the day you can spend time with family. Tuesday, we all love Tuesday. You can't beat a good day. Tuesday is the day when you get inspired with things you don't see every day, but it's Tuesday.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you for that. All I have is, I just want to say thank you to the A&E Advisory Council and Main Street, who had a joint lunch on Friday and got to share their ideas. I think we're going to see some pretty incredible things coming out of those groups. And shout out to Secretary Peters, who came and spent some time here on Thursday to talk about ARC funding. Hopefully, we'll be seeing more money come in the city. So that's all I have this evening. We're adjourned. Have a good night.
Hello and welcome to Council Wrap. I'm Wes Decker, joined by City Administrator Scott Nicewarner, and it's been a while since we've had one of these conversations, but I think this is a good evening to have one, given the discussions that we had in the meeting that preceded this. And I say that because it's a little confusing even to me when we talk about the A&E district. The redesignation is pretty straightforward, but there is a lot of stuff in there, as Councilmember Alshire pointed out, that gets really complicated in a way, or there are a lot of words, as he said, and there are. When you look at the three incentives that go along with the A&E district itself,
Right.
The real tax property break, you've got also the opportunity for an artist to get an income tax subtraction for being in that particular area. And then you also look at the
emissions
waiver
tax.
of the A&A tax. So can you sort of tackle that a little bit? Maybe give us what all of that means in a nutshell, and why someone would want to be in the A&E district. Why has it been, and it's different in different cases, but kind of give us a synopsis of that.
So probably the way it works now for most, if not almost all of the folks in the current A&E district, is the fact that they are predominantly nonprofits. So they do not, they don't care as much about the personal property opportunity because they wouldn't pay it anyway.
Okay.
Where their interest lies for the most part is on the A&A tax exemption, which basically means that they do not pay the state any admissions tax.
Okay.
For example, if you go to a concert, you may see a surcharge of 50 cents, $1, and that is usually some sort of an admissions tax that goes to the state. The state sends us back a portion of that, not all of it, but a portion. We don't get 100% of it. And that's really where they keep their ticket prices somewhat lower because they don't have to charge that tax.
Right.
The other part is on the artists being able to use their performing or their exhibiting their crafts in an A&E district. They can subtract that income they get from their income tax, which is if you're a small guy just doing the craft shows or maybe the paint, the wine and paint kind of thing, and you're charging for your services.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice little credit you get there. So those are three things, really the two main ones that are of most interest in the current A&E district, and for the most part in the expanded A&E district would be still what would be the most interest of the predominance of the people included.
So when we talk about, for instance, Washington County Museum of Fine Arts was brought up as being one of those agencies, one of those organizations that would be included within the new boundaries. So how is it beneficial, say, to the Museum of Fine Arts in comparison, because we're looking at something totally different when we talk about the new multi-use stadium going in? I mean, what is the difference between, and again, we have one that is certainly nonprofit,
Right.
and then we have one that would be essentially for-profit or would be holding events that would generate revenue.
So at the risk of being wrong, my impression of this would be, it's apples and oranges between the two examples you gave. The Museum of Fine Arts, I do not believe gets taxed right now. I don't believe the museum is a taxable entity at the city park. The biggest thing they would be able to do would be to, when they have their craft shows, or if they brought in, sometimes they'll bring in like a violinist or something like that. Those performers would be able to write off their proceeds on their income tax.
Just like you said, so that would
Yeah,
be
that would be
be
huge for
beneficial
them,
to them
sure.
in terms of attraction.
That's
of
correct.
artists. Okay.
Now, if you look at something like the Sports and Multi-Use Center, that would be different, because that would be a facility that currently under the state criteria would not include baseball, because baseball, the State Arts Council does not consider an artistic event, whether you love baseball or not.
Right.
So there would still be a surcharge on the ticket of $1 or $1.50. I can't remember what it would be. It's not a lot that would go on that ticket as an additional charge. Now, if it would be, and we're assuming it is included in the A&E district, if they would have a concert or something that falls under that that criteria that the state puts out, they would then be exempted from charging that additional fee.
Okay.
That really is the crux of it.
Yeah.
The other part, without getting super complex with it on the property tax side, would be an exemption or some credit on the additional tax due to the improvement of an area where a event was happening that falls under the criteria of art, of art.
Yeah.
That we just don't know, because we don't know what stadium's going to look like yet, or what the Musec's going to look like yet. So those are things we just don't know. And until we do know, we're really not able to have any discussions about what to do with it.
Councilmember Alshire brought up, working on a pilot for this.
Yeah.
Is that something that would be feasible? Maybe not at this point in time, but down the road?
No, I totally get where he's coming from. A payment in lieu of taxes is what a pilot is. Normally, it goes to those entities, and both parties have to want to enter into a pilot. That's one of the things about a pilot. I can't tell you, Mr. Nonprofit Wes Decker, you don't have to pay taxes, but I'm going to make you pay a pilot. Can't do it.
Okay.
But right now, it's a fully taxable venue. If something happens down the way, and some part of that would get exempt, or something happens that would create it, that we would want to go into a pilot, because, as Councilman is absolutely spot on about, we have to provide services.
Right.
We would have to provide police.
Yep.
We would have to provide fire department. We would have other services that the Musec would use, and that people going to the Musec would expect that the taxpayer would pay for. So we would want to ensure that there was compensation for that. But again, we don't know that yet.
Yes, right.
And the A&E designation can be done. Now, you have to recertify every 10 years. But during that 10 years, you can redesignate. You have to go through the process again. But you can redesignate the boundaries. And it's, do you do it now or do you do it later? I think the majority of the council, and again, it's a great discussion. The one thing I truly do enjoy about this group and their interaction with staff is how we can have these hard discussions. And I think the council is on board with that designation and the new boundary. I think it's a large boundary, but again, 90 to 95% of it's going to be utilized by nonprofits anyway. So it's not like it's going to cost us or cost the taxpayer a lot of tax credits to deal with it.
Yeah, and it's part of the city growing and evolving.
Yeah.
And I think, for the most part, the council's pretty excited about that.
Absolutely.
And the work that's been done as it relates to Main Street and the A&E district at
And
this
just
point.
the economic development interest that has been generated by the Musec, even up to this point where we don't even know what it's going to look like yet.
Right.
Just that interest that's been generated
Yeah.
is just through the roof.
Well, I can tell you right now, in working on the State of the City video, which we can sort of segue into that,
Right.
in talking to some of the business owners that I've talked to, every single one of them has mentioned the MUSEC.
Yeah.
And what that will mean and how it has enhanced their view of wanting to be part of the city of Hagerstown.
Oh, absolutely, and I'll even go so far as to expand on that with the proposed field house on the side of the old municipal stadium. The amount of tourism dollars that are going to come into the city, in those that would not normally come to Hagerstown, it is going to be an impact that I think will still amaze us when we get those reports, and both are in full operation. I truly think, and I'm not blowing smoke, that I truly think that we will be a mecca of recreational and professional sporting opportunity between Fairgrounds Park, that already is one of the busiest travel softball and soccer venues in the four-state.
For sure.
The Hagerstown Ice Rink, and the ice, the cold sports, so to speak.
Yep.
The proposed field house on Memorial Boulevard, and the MUSEC on Baltimore Street. I mean, you have a athletic trail of venues that are going to generate economic activity like this city I don't think has probably ever seen.
No, I mean, it's quite a transformation. What would you say, and just to play devil's advocate
Sure.
here a little bit, and I've heard this to some degree in the community, what would you say to those who are concerned about the field house and their view that maybe the city's looking at attracting those tourism dollars, but not worrying as much about those who are already here and having an opportunity to use a venue like that? Is there something you can say to sort of allay their fears a little bit? Because that is not the case. I mean,
it's not the case at all. I mean, you're going to spend probably at least 5 of the 7 days is going to be local youth activities. And adult activity. This is not just for the youth. This is going to be a full-blown opportunity to have adult sports on locally on the weeknights.
What did John Wax say to Councilmember Brucci? The silver sneakers or something
silver
like that?
sneakers during the day, yoga, aerobics, pickleball. I mean, I can't tell you the number of adult friends, and I think I could probably use some of it myself, the exercise you get by playing pickleball. And we don't have enough pickleball courts around for folks to utilize here. They have to travel to Martinsburg or Chambersburg or wherever, and we don't want people to travel away from here. We want them to stay here. We want to provide those amenities.
Yeah.
And I think certainly on the weekends there's going to be times when there's going to be tournaments come in, whether it's basketball, volleyball, indoor soccer, indoor lacrosse, futsal, whatever.
Yeah.
There's certainly going to be time for that because that has to be part of the revenue stream. But the predominant amount of time is going to be geared towards local youth, local adult leagues, instruction. There's going to be a fitness room in there. And I think the amenities are going to be such that folks are not going to have, sure, it's going to be busy. There's going to be a time when it's going to be busy, especially when it first opens, as it always happens that way. But over time, I think you're going to find that there's going to be plenty of opportunity for our residents, our city residents, to utilize the facility. I think it will be an absolute gem to be able to use.
Yeah, I think that's something that they needed to hear. They needed that to be laid out for them. And you talked earlier about the fact that, this particular body can have certain discussions and, staff doesn't get offended by what's discussed. We come to resolutions on all of these things sitting here at this particular table. And one of those things, last Thursday, We had a meeting right here about the Clara Barton Memorial. There had been a little bit of opposition expressed, perhaps in terms of the location of that particular sculpture. And Toby Mendez, of course, world-renowned, tremendous sculptor. We see his work right here in town already, on board with this, and had a very productive discussion last Thursday about this, and now this evening, talking about moving forward with that project. So can you sort of weigh in on that a little bit and what your impression of that is?
Well, I think the concerns, and I'm a South End resident, Councilman Alshire, Mayor Keller, we're all pretty much neighbors. And we go past that triangle area there, Park Circle, and the fountain in the actual Park Circle every day, multiple times a day. And I think there was just some concern related to the cultural trail and whether this was a fit for the cultural trail, whether it was the right location, whether the landscaping was appropriate, whether it could be seen. I know I had those questions, and I expressed them that night, that I did not think initially that was, based upon the drawings that we have behind you here, that I thought that was a good place for it, because I didn't think anybody could see it. That it would be a better place for it would be on the circle where the fountain is, and relocate that fountain. But, it would be something everybody would see, whether you're coming Virginia Avenue, Memorial Boulevard, Walnut Street, Summit Avenue, wherever. You would see it. But in having that discussion the other night, and the Councilman Alshire and Mayor Keller and Councilmember Burnett, Toby was here, and some community members, we were able to bounce those things back and forth. And I think the actual drawing that, if anybody wants to see it, is in the packet that'll be online. I think that the change in instead of using that arborvitae landscaping, putting more of the dogwood, cherry tree, those kind of things, and still making it something where you're not gazing at, railroad tracks and electric poles and that kind of thing. Right. I think that really enhances the look of it. And then, as Rodney Tissue said, city engineer said, there's still plenty of room to do other things in that triangle. It is a much larger space than what people think it is. So, I think having that conversation the other night where you could communicate and you could bounce things back off. You can email each other all you want, even, Zoom, whatever. Getting everybody in the same room and bouncing that stuff off, I thought it was a great conversation, and it led to where we're at today. We're going to put that very moving and attractive statue made by one of the premier sculptors in the world. We're going to have it in the Park Circle area. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, and I thought Toby Mendez made some great points in looking at where items like that are in other cities, how they're sort of sprinkled in with amenities that might be a little more attractive universally, but at the same time, because they're there, they start the conversation because people kind of come upon them and they're like, and then the conversation starts. And as Councilmember Alshire said, one of his goals is certainly to tell the history of Hagerstown in some ways, and he has a lot of different ideas as to how that could happen and could be incorporated into the cultural trail itself. So I think both of those things sort of came together. We found out that they don't collide with each other. Instead, they can live independently of one another.
I mean, it's a cultural trail. There's not one culture.
Yeah.
There are multiple cultures.
Right.
And I think the trail right now does a good job of starting to tell the story. I mean, the Faces of Hagerstown,
right?
The Molar Organ interactive exhibit that's there off Baltimore Street at Potomac Towers are wonderful. I think this adds to it. I think we can certainly do more, especially as we expand the trail into Hatters Plaza there by BISFA, and we go across the street and we move into towards Franklin and eventually to the Market Lot. I think there's still that opportunity remains to continue to tell the story of Hagerstown. And in the case of this, it really does include the story of Washington County because, the Battle of Antietam, where Clara Barton made her provided her services is just down the road.
Yep.
And a lot of those soldiers that she triaged on the battlefield at Antietam, actually ended up in Hagerstown in hospital. So, and unfortunately, some of those that passed away, many of them are buried here. So, I think it's an awesome story to tell, and certainly. I think where that location is, and again, I just go back to you've got a world-renowned sculpture doing the work.
Yeah,
You can't
and-
beat it.
Yeah, and obviously quite a legacy.
Yeah, we just want it seen.
yeah,
We want it to
right.
be an area where it can be seen.
Right, and I thought it was very, very moving, the evening of the meeting here. We actually had a nurse who was here who said she was inspired by Clara Barton and having seen her on a mural at the old McDonald's on Northern Avenue years ago as a kid. So,
right.
I mean, you just can't make that kind of stuff up. Speaking of which, as we close things out, we're not making anything up. We don't make things up, but we're going to look back on 2021, another interesting year with our State of the City coming up on March the 1st at the Maryland Theater. You want to give people a little preview of that, perhaps?
Well, I think once again we need to highlight, and of course this is the mayor's video, and we all know how creative the mayor is when it comes to videos. So I think it's going to be another one of those videos where and opportunities to highlight our small business.
Yeah.
Whether you're a downtown small business or out in the outer reaches outside the downtown area, because it's been, unfortunately, it was another tough year. And I believe that the small businesses and the owners that you're going to talk to are going to be able to expand upon their resilience and what it took for them to survive what we never thought was going to happen. That was the second year of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's those kind of situations we need to celebrate as a city, because not all cities got through this 2 years, and again, hopefully we're on the tail end of this thing. But who knows when the next issue is going to come? And I think we've shown as a city and as a community that we can get through it. We are resilient, and certainly this council has stepped in. The end of the last administration and the beginning of this one has shown that they're resilient too, and that they understand what it takes to keep things moving, to keep us successful. And I think the state of the city will be a great look back on that.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have it at the Maryland Theater.
Yep.
We invite people to come out and be part of that on March the 1st.
Yeah, and we'll show it here we're going to keep the March
Yeah.
1st agenda light.
Okay.
And we'll be able to show it again here, and then we'll have it on the website for everybody to see. And I just
Definitely.
we try to make the state of the city a celebration of what we are as a city. And I think this one is gonna do that in a great way. And again, we don't make this stuff up. We use real people in real situations. It's not an actor portraying like some other things.
It is not an actor portrayal.
It's definitely not. And so I always look forward to the state of the city. I know you do as well, and the 100 hours a week you put into it.
I love the project.
Yeah.
I really do, and I love seeing how it all comes to fruition. As the mayor has her sort of ideas, and then we try to implement them as best we can, and then we go out and talk to some of those business owners, as you said. And I think the great thing this year, the one thing that really sticks out to me, like you said, in what was another non-normal type of year, we had people who were just so excited about wanting to be a part of the fabric of Hagerstown. Some who already were, some who weren't. One in particular who just had an idea and said, hey, I think we can make this happen, and they made it happen. And telling their stories, I think, is just tremendous. So I think, to me, that's the best part of State of the City, is just hearing those success stories and hearing people who, with no obligation whatsoever, are just so happy to be part of the city of Hagerstown. So look forward to that on March the 1st. I could talk to you forever. I feel like we've already talked for a long period of time, but I mean.
I'm getting hungry.
Great information. So am I. My stomach
Holy
is starting
cow.
to growl. So we're going to wrap this up now.
Hopefully there'll be an Antietam Classic on when I get home, and I can watch the.
Yeah, let's.
I can watch the GOAT of Washington County Athletics.
Yeah, back when I never missed a meal. I think you pointed that out to me at one time. I think that was like 2002 or something. Anyway,
That's what it was.
If you don't know what we're talking about, don't worry about it.
Cable Channel 6.
We'll see you back here in a couple of weeks following the next work session. Until then, for Scott Nice-Warner, I'm Wes Decker. Thanks for watching. That's a wrap.